Great American Eclipse. It takes place on the cusp of your 5th and 6th house, right? So Aries chart, nice and nifty. Solar chart, Aries is first house, Taurus second, Gemini third, blah, blah, blah. Right around Leo on the 5th house. This eclipse takes place at 29 degrees of Leo on 12/21. And when we get, especially you thinking about houses or signs as houses, which is the whole sign houses used in the system, we have an event that straddles the 5th house of daring and creativity. That's the nature of the 5th house, and of experimentation, childlike play, and the 6th house of get busy and get to work. And you might say applied science. Virgo is the sign of applied science. In the 6th house, it's going to be about the day-to-day work of making progress in what you do and applying your creativity in tangible ways. And the way to get ahead of this transit is to get with yourself on the relationship between your most creative ideas and their most tangible expression. You have to, without resorting to like pragmatism, oh, just do what you do because it's practical, without resorting to that kind of silly argument, it is necessary for anyone involved with creativity in some way to find a use for what they do, including being decorative and artistic, right? The use does not have to be, oh, wow, I invented a mechanical pencil. I've saved the world from pencil sharpeners. Okay, that's great. I mean, this is a great invention. But there has to be some application of your creativity to something that someone somewhere finds use for in the world to make you viable in the economy. The key is bringing as much of the creativity in with you as you can, and not getting too bogged down in the pragmatism and the let's say the applied use of your idea. And the most important thing about your work is that you take it up on the level of beauty. With Libra on the cusp of house 6, what you do must aspire to beauty, and where you do it must aspire to beauty, especially with Jupiter there. And so, now's the time to make sure that your work equipment is beautiful, in that it's functional and relatively new, and basically enjoy the process of creating. Rather than having it be some form of frustration in some way. Well, you're well past that. You have way too much talent, and these revelations you're having about yourself matter to people. They matter a lot to people, and you have to trust that, and then just see what the effect is. You have very potent aspects right now in your chart talking about how you are a kind of a way shower. I haven't said much about this. I should really write an entire article on this, but QB1, 1992 QB1, right in early Taurus, illustrates you as someone who is here to open the way for others, and that means experimenting with and exploring, having an open way and an open path yourself. And the way to do that is don't judge your own performance. All right. Don't forget, listen to your rising sign. Check out your moon sign. You are Taurus after all, and the position of your moon, which you should know the position of your moon, because the moon is exalted in Taurus, and it's one of the signs for whom the moon is the most important sign, as kind of a balancing element in the psyche, and a have an other facet. For you to keep asserting yourself against your reality and testing the limits and the boundaries of your reality, and seeing what happens. I'm predicating that on basic respect for the law, and that if you're going to do 80 miles an hour on the interstate, you're going to be sober. I'm not talking about like the really practical boundaries, like honoring highway pylons that might be, placed in front of a sinkhole, but rather in the normal social realm, in the normal realm of what you do, you can afford to stretch and push. And all right, hopefully this is still recording. I don't feel like doing this twice. Next, the eclipse. Very interesting positioning for this eclipse. Let's look a little bit closely here. Let's zoom right in on that. There, see, total solar eclipse. Boom. That's at 29 degrees of Leo. Degree and a half away from Virgo. Degree and a half away from your fourth house cusp. This is a clue. There's a double clue here in that there's a position, a point in the zodiac that I would be amazed if another astrologer brings it up who didn't hear about it for me, who just says, oh, wow, that's conjunct trans-Pluto. Look at that. Trans-Pluto is a point that looks at narrowness. It describes narrowness. And it in your chart is describing an idea of your safety and your security and your well-being that needs to be wider. It needs to be bigger. You need a more open-minded concept of what it means to be secure. The eclipse happens right up against that in Leo, drawing forth vital force and pushing against your concept of what it means to be secure. Like, I don't need these training wheels anymore, for example, right? That's a perfect illustration, right? You're riding as a little kid, and the training wheels get you up. You learn how to balance. You don't fall off the bike, right? You've gotten that far. Then one day you realize, wow, I can go further and faster, and it won't look so stupid if I get rid of these training wheels. So you get a wrench and you take them off. That's the picture of this eclipse. You don't need training wheels. You do need to aspire to tangible goals that you want to have. That's what I have to say to you. So, let's see. Check your rising sign. That about sums it up, I think. I don't want to over present this here. But, there's a lot of boundary testing going on. And ultimately, the most important boundaries that you must test 28.5 degrees of Leo happens over the next approximately 2 months. It's not that far off. How far off is it? Let's see, 21st, 3 months approximately, right? The pressure is going to come on, and we're going to see all kinds of spectacular weirdness, unlike much that you've ever seen. And so you are going to get many occasions to rise to the occasion, even over the next 2 months as this eclipse happens. Now, where this eclipse happens in your chart is tantalizingly exciting because it takes place in your house of self-esteem. First of all, this is the second house. Now, it's late in the house of self-esteem, which also, by the way, borrowing from classical astrology, is your house of available resources, available cash, the things you have, the gear that you have to work with, your ideas, the fact that you're alive, the fact that you might take care of yourself. All of that is your available resources, including whether you make yourself available for love and for work. Please do. Now, the eclipse takes place on the edge of that house and also on the edge of your third house, Virgo, where the name of the tune in Virgo is applied intelligence. So there's something here about translating your resources into a job to do. You're being given a lot of support about that. And one of the discoveries that you're likely to make is how much you have in the way of resources. And you need to use them all. You need to use all of your talents, all of your skills, everything about what you feel rightfully belongs to you or that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal becomes your resource to do stuff with. And so you're on this edge where you're like, well, have I got enough to accomplish this next thing that needs to be done? This thing needs to be done. What do I have to do it with? What exactly do I have available? So spend the next few weeks inventorying what you have available. Your talents, your ideas, your energy, your passion, your sense of duty and responsibility, a very big factor for Leo. I mean, Leo is ruled by the sun, which holds the entire solar system together. That is a big job. Leo is only a blustering fool when it's on its in its unevolved state. It's only a bossy, egotistical douchebag when it hasn't really thought much about existence. Besides that, once you get past that, Leo's real flaw is that it works too hard. It is too concerned about the nature of its role and responsibility of holding so much together. So you want to be mindful of the concept of dharma and how much you're holding together, and keep some balance there, and make sure that you follow the principle of dharma, which is acting as if to hold the world together, doing your small part to hold the world together. And as you do that, and as you master that, you are very likely to be summoned to ever greater challenges, and this might end up being some pretty high level work that you have to do. And so the way to do that is to write, edit, proofread, and fact check everything as if it's going to appear on the pages of the Wall Street Journal, even though it may only be your personal blog or a memo that you're writing. Work at performance level. Be fully cognizant of the fact that anyone might be watching, listening, or aware of what you are doing. One other point I have in my notes is to make sure that your relationships with your higher-ups and your relationships with the government and your relationships with a corporate system are well presented. Archetype in your 8th in Pisces, where there's all this consent and negotiation and inherent fog. And Chiron's path is almost finished in Pisces. The thing that was providing you with the clarity that you could count upon is soon to make its way into Aries, and you'll be onto a new phase of life, and you'll have an occasion to seek a kind of spiritual clarity and contact with your higher self, whatever that might be. But you will lose the tool of negotiation, where all this like dipping and non-consensual sharing comes in the 8th house. So while you've got the benefit of Chiron in the 8th house, work on those boundaries. Get good at negotiating agreements with people and then holding yourself to those agreements, holding others to those agreements, or changing the agreement when you feel that it's time to change the agreement, right? This is a very important life skill. Yes, no, or this has to be different. So be prepared for an interesting summer with 2 new moons in your sign. And when you hear about the first Leo new moon, which will take place on, let's just get a little sprite window open, events, aspects, Moon conjunct Sun. That is on July 23rd, the first day that the Sun is in Leo. The first thing that happens is that there is a new moon, and then looking at this chart, the second thing that happens is the Moon and the Sun make a conjunction to Mars. So this is we might say this is an aspirational summer for you. Remember that as you try to succeed, the thing that you're looking for is specifically how to succeed in a way that you are absolutely grounded in the ethics of and are willing to question and challenge ongoing the ethics of. Ethics are your friend right now, especially with the astrology you've got and with what seems like the whole flippin' world playing fast and loose with right and wrong and alternative facts. The facts are what you have established is true and relevant for you, and have preferably reality checked against others to make sure that your thinking is in harmony with some awareness that these regions of yourself exist because you've got descriptions and you understand something about the process that's going on, and you can get ahead of your transits and begin a process of refocusing and of stabilizing, remembering, of course, that there is some revelation at hand associated with this big eclipse that's coming just millimeters away from your door, from the entry into the sign Virgo, and you might want to work with that first. Pull your mindfulness within you, get in the habit of revealing the things to yourself that you typically conceal from yourself, and revealing the things to partners that you typically conceal from partners, and gaining the confidence that can only come with being boldly, actually truthful with yourself and with others about who you are. All right. With these, revolution is within. That's all about Virgo. Please check your rising sign. Easy to find out. You need your more or less approximate time. The closer, the better. Rising sign changes every 2 hours. Try to get your birth time as close as you can, and check out your rising sign, because between that reading, this reading, and your perception, you get a triangulated thing that I think is ideal for making the most out of this type of astrology. All right. A pleasure working with you. I am going to call it a day here at Planet Waves. Two more signs to go. Where I'm hanging up the and yet when you look into a true mirror and you see an image of yourself as others see you, that is considered awkward. And it is, and there are people who are considered to be destabilizing. As the inventor of the true mirror cautioned me that there will be some people who look in the true mirror and who start crying, which is kind of an interesting thing to have. Yeah, as someone who spent a lot of time with people in front of mirrors, to watch someone take one glance in a mirror and break into tears because they've never seen that person before. Maybe you've seen it in photographs, but that's very different than seeing yourself in real time. And so the movement of Venus back and forth, Venus being your ruling planet, by the way, which is why the movement of Venus is so vital to you, particularly where it's ended up now at the time of the summer solstice. Venus has been giving you an opportunity to see yourself in various kinds of mirrors. Some have been false mirrors, some have been true mirrors. Some of the things that have possibly made you the most edgy and uncomfortable have been the true mirror. They are also some of the things that present you in the best possible light. And when Venus made its retrograde through Aries and back into Pisces and formed a long, 8 or 9 day conjunction to Chiron in Pisces, there was something this spring about your need for healing, your specific healing quest that you were able to align with. And you may need to go back into your discussions with yourself in March and April and assess and remind yourself what that was. Question what was going on in your relationships. Consider what the content of those conversations were. How were they going? And how much did you identify as being something that was a factor in a relationship that was coming from you, that was that had its origins in your consciousness? Now, one of the things about healing, in particular healing relationships, is that it requires a tremendous amount of self-disclosure. You have to reveal yourself to the people that you are close to, or there really is no basis for trust. And so at the moment, Venus is back in Aries, and over basically the last week of May, it's going to make a series of conjunctions to the Uranus-Eris conjunction, right? So right now, as we're recording, Venus is right about there. And then it's going to form conjunction first to Eris and then to Uranus. Now, this is a commentary on radical honesty. If anything describes the either inability or unwillingness to bullshit, to be someone other than who you are, this is the astrology. And then over the next few weeks, after that kind of exercise or exploration in radical honesty takes place, at the time of the summer solstice, both Venus and the moon are in your 8th house. And it's close to Virgo, which is your 11th house, which you might think of the 11th house as your house of public acceptance. You might think of it as the house where you either get to be the flavor of the month or not. And there is a mental block here in terms of how you perceive your public, whatever that is, circle of friends, your client base, whatever that might be. And that mental block is illustrated by trans-Pluto, another one of these hypotheticals, but it's from a different set of hypotheticals. The eclipse is going to push the barrier between your reputation and how you are received. As with all things involving this trans-Pluto point showing up in Virgo, wherever it shows up for people, the counsel is you must keep an open mind. And the open mind to keep with trans-Pluto is the open, in Virgo, in the 11th, is the open mind of what people think about you. You are likely to have a much harsher self-image than people have of you. You may just think, well, I'm boring, nobody likes me, and this, that, and the other. And the reality is you're venerated. You're respected, and you're looked up to. And what you have to get out of is the habit of expecting people not to approve of you, of expecting people not to like you, and expecting that they're judging the scuff on your boot, when the chances are, if the conversation went on for 6 months, they would never see the scuff on your boot. You've got to withdraw those projections and allow yourself to be either the attractive type, which could be here and here, the like deeply fermenting vat of barley sexual type, turning yourself into whatever they make out of barley. I keep forgetting. I don't really drink much of that barley stuff. Or the regal type, because you have, one of the most important signs for Scorpio from which you draw attributes. I mean, look, we're using a whole chart for Scorpio, right? We're not telling the Scorpio story just looking at one little wedge, right? The entire chart is in the scenario, and you draw energy mostly from this angle, and this, and this. So like half the power of Scorpio is being drawn off of the fixed cross, and the fixed cross has Leo prominently, and Leo is regal and beautiful. Feel different. If you feel like you have some special spiritual mojo you can't explain, and you understand things people don't understand, or you have a sense of purpose or of destiny that other people don't seem to have, if a lot of people you notice are like kind of mumbling to God, and you are getting thunder cracks and lightning flashes in your mind, consider the possibility that it's because Sagittarius is not your ordinary sign of the zodiac. There's something really different about Sagittarius. These central features in the galaxy and in the universe are right in your fucking sign, and that, just tell yourself that every day, and then ask for the guidance that you need. And then make sure that you have a cornerstone laying ceremony, that you be the one wacky person who looks at something that's empty, and you see what can be there, and you put a couple of skids of bricks on your credit card, and you start building the thing. That's what this time in your life is about. All right, let's look a little more closely at this chart with that wrap. This recording might go a little bit over, but we'll see. Usually it comes right out at 30 minutes, kind of what I figure is the maximum that people can stand. Now, that said, this Saturn in Sagittarius placement is currently under some very unusual transits right now that make it especially distinctive, that make it different than your average ordinary Saturn in Sagittarius, which happened about 27, 28, 29 years ago. The first thing going on is, and it would be good to draw this in. Got a lot of lines here. May need to rescan this chart for you, but let's see. You'll have the video version of it. So there's on the big clock, there's a lot of slow hands on the big clock of time, right? The little hand, right? That one goes around slower. So in astrology, there's basically big hands, little hands, and second hands. And there's a whole bunch of all of them, but two of the little hands that move more slowly are Saturn, right there, Chiron, right there. Continues to work its way through Capricorn, and it will make a series of squares to even slower moving Eris. This is like 2018 to 2022, basically, we start to get into this territory, and it lasts into the 2020s. And incidentally, this is the United States Pluto return as well. And so there's going to be a lot of moving and a lot of shaking. Now, you're accustomed to a lot of moving and a lot of shaking, and this is particularly true where your relationship to your family is concerned. Now, one of the ways I can tell that you have such a strong investment in your family, apart from the many Capricorns I've known and loved, who seem to be among the most devoted people to their families, assuming they still have a relationship with their family, and I've noticed many will do anything in their power to maintain that relationship in any which way, even if it means driving 16 hours every week or something to go visit someone in a remote city to make that 8-hour trip back and forth for years. We'll do that. But astrologically, the way this shows up, and this may provide you with a little bit of insight, is that the sign Aries is on your fourth solar house. The fourth house is the foundation we stand on. It's also the security base. It's also the family of origin household, how you experience the family of origin household, and what that says about your ability to feel safe and secure now at this stage of your life as an adult, not as a child. And so when we look at this and we see that Aries is there, I mean, we remember that Aries is the sign. See, Aries, fourth house, that's there. Aries is the sign that points, in especially in the solar chart system, gives a clue as to where we seek identity. seek ourselves, where we attempt to get to know who we are. And when you combine Aries with the fourth house, it's suggestive that your place in your family may be the most important thing in your life. And that would be particularly challenging if it were something that you didn't want to be true, if you want to outgrow your family, if you want independence from your family, and in particular, if you want to be who you are outside the strictures and the rules and the kind of in a sense game that families play, trying to hold you to the person that they expect you to be, or that they want you to be, or that from their viewpoint they need you to be, so that you don't question or challenge or threaten their ego structure. Begin to make decisions based on that. You may notice that you've made dinner the last 100 times. What's going on? Or you may you may think that your boyfriend's or husband's always supposed to pay for dinner. Well, what's going on? It's unlikely to be that imbalanced, but you want to poke around and not take whatever the state of balance is. That's Jonah. Whatever the state of balance is for granted, and allow yourself to question and to contemplate the way in which things can be different. A couple of other bits. I want to just while I'm staring at the Sun and Mercury in the sixth, I want to remind you how important it is that your work environment, speaking of generosity, that your work environment be a generous environment for you, and an environment that you take care of generously. You have Cancer on the sixth house cusp, and that does mean you need to go to the spa every now and then and get pedicures and take bubble baths and all that. But it also describes your work environment, and your work environment must be like home, and home is a place where there is an open sharing. There's no meter on the refrigerator. There's no prices on the menu at home. That's the way your work environment needs to feel for you to be healthy. You may decide you have a long way to go to get there. You may decide, wow, I'm in a cubicle where no one cares about me. Or you may think, wow, I'm so glad I work at home. I'm onto this already. Just a reminder. Second reminder is that Aquarius is the sign of groups. We all know that. And in the house of your career, Scorpio, 10th house, reputation, career, there's this weird little point called Apollon. It looks like a double Jupiter. And Apollon is a planet that is associated with groups. It's about bringing people together. And there is a fairly simple message here, which is that if you want to succeed in your profession, bring people together. And there's an implication, once again, of empathy and of feeling and of generosity. So this chart is giving the same message over and over again. And Aquarius is currently, I think, the subtlest solar chart right now. It's been the most challenging to read and to like, what is this chart trying to say? What is the message here? And you may be feeling that question, like, what is the message of my life right now? And I've done my best to delineate it, but remember that it's a subtle point, and we could say that it all comes back to doing this closet cleaning. We could say that it all comes back to empathy, which is related to the closet cleaning. We could say that it comes back to self-esteem and having empathy for yourself. That is a high likelihood. And were I born under the sign Aquarius or rising, I am Aquarius moon. I have a kind of honorary, existence as an Aquarian. The two are working together. There is some cooperation. There is some tension, and much of what there is when there are squares. And just to remind you of the squares, again, we're talking about planets in the 10th, planets in the 1st, and incidentally also a planet in the fourth, all making squares. And what squares tend to do is that there are two legs of the square, right? There's the one side and the other side. And what happens with a square typically is you'll work one side of the square and to the neglect of the other side of the square, then you'll work the other side of the square, and then the other, and then you keep going back and forth, whatever those two things might be. And I give a long rant about this in the Sagittarius reading if you want to tune in. I don't want to kind of repeat the drama, but basically what I equated to is, let's say you make something and then you're the person who has to sell the thing that you make. And so you put the energy into making the thing, and then you realize, wow, I need some money, I better sell the thing. And you put your money into selling the thing and you realize, wow, I better go back and make the thing. And it seems like you can never get caught up. And with the 10th and the first involved, there's achievement with Saturn in the 10th that's provoking you to grow personally, and then when you dive in and grow personally, that may be a much more internal orientation, and you neglect the outside. And so there's some interior versus exterior. There is some what people can see and what people can't see, what you're known for and what you're not known for. Those are the kind of lines of tension between the first and the 10th. But it is a vital phase of both professional or worldly achievement development and deep-seated, intimately private personal development, as if you're having to pump out or extract or find your most vital resources to be able to work work what you're building, to power what you're building. Okay, so this is going on. This is happening, and it is challenging and it is tense. But what you're doing right now is laying the foundation for achievement for many years to come, and you're setting up basically a dynamic where there is an intimate relationship between who you present yourself to be and who you actually are. And if you're known for anything in the world, it can be very challenging to keep balance, integrity, which means integration, between what you are known for and the personality that you present on the outside and who you actually know yourself to be on the inside. And with Saturn square Chiron and with Saturn square Pholus, Saturn square Chiron, and then Pholus square Chiron, that's a lot of energy between these two facets. And these lines that are here, that they should actually be drawn like in bright red, are bold lines of energy that are conduits for this growth process. This is serious character development. This is not about being like the perpetual millennial child or having unhealthy dependencies on people or waiting for your ship to come in. This is about